Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we have a look at the 3 best decks in the standard format after Ultra Rare and Answer of Truth. I realize Miyagi Academy has been out for a couple of weeks in Japan, but we haven't really had a large enough amount of big single player events to really judge Miyagi just yet. From the looks of it, Narukami, Royals and OTT are the big winners from said set and trial decks, but let's just wait a little longer to completely judge. Now before I get into the video, be sure to pick up your Zero Damage Gaming playmat at the link in the description. We've got an amazing selection of beautiful mats with stitched borders. Use the code Solemn Vanguard to get 10% off. Getting into the list though, I find it a bit hard to justify creating tiers when the lines are this blurry and wonky. Whilst we do have 3 obvious top tier decks, everything below them is really hard to categorize apart from one. So, when discussing the post-Answer of Truth meta, the first deck we need to talk about is Angel Feathers. This deck is nuts. It basically got everything it could ever ask for. It heals, it survives, it toolboxes, and it has its very own Dragonic Waterfall that also happens to work on rearguard to finish off your opponent. Feather Palace is a really busted card when you consider it's in the same deck as free heal Metatron. More importantly, one of Protect's weaknesses is that it relies on consistently rewriting in order to keep its Protect creation afloat. This deck gets that for free in Zerachiel. Sure, she needs to be in damage for it to work, but it's just one more consistency bump that helps this deck out in many ways. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this deck ends up winning Worlds. If I had to pick the current best deck in the standard format, Angel Feather would probably be it. On a side note, it's also pretty cool how this deck could potentially have the highest skill ceiling in standard as of yet. Now, it's obviously no Nitros, Wiseman Loop or Premium Luard as far as ceiling goes, but there's quite some things you can think about and have to perfect, so it's nice to see that in this format. The next obvious contender for the top spot is Meoh Nectar. At first, it wasn't exactly clear how good this deck would be without a promo that only Japan got so far, but by now it has become quite obvious that the deck isn't that bothered by it either. Sure, Sunlight Garden's Guide is a great card and all, but the overall card quality of other pieces in the deck ensures that the deck does great even without it. They are able to be aggressive early on if they want to be, giving them a strong Protect matchup, and scale well into the late game because of cards like their VR Cecilia. They don't really care about the Force Mirror's field nukes because many of those cards were worthless plant tokens which they can immediately refuel anyway. The existence of plant tokens also makes it so they don't have to commit all that many cards to field, and thus they're able to guard a bit more than your typical Force deck. Now do note that the English metagame will be receiving the promo during Springfest, but that's still a few months away and thus the meta will be impacted by other boosters by then. The final deck I would put in my top 3 of the best decks in standard right now is Oracle Thinktank. It's actually quite amazing how good this deck has stayed since the inception of standard. The ability to draw a lot of cards, scry the top of your deck and stack triggers is simply too good in a format that is still very RNG reliant. It also has access to one of the best finishers in the game in Victorious Deer, and thus it's still holding its own weight very well until Miyagi and the new trial deck, where it gets its new support and likely becomes the very best deck in the format once again. Now, some people may say OTT was weakened by Morakumo when it came out, and that is true. When the AL4 booster dropped, we saw a spike in competitive players picking up Morakumo to counter OTT, and that worked well for quite a while. Instead of pick OTT or die format, AL4 brought back the triangle of balance where Shadows beat the shit out of Mura, Mura beat the shit out of OTT, and OTT beat the shit out of Shadows. Generally, of course. Odd Saki games do happen, but that's what usually happened. The issue is that Ultra Rare Collection gave us the best Force deck this game has ever seen in Meoh Nectar, and the best Protect deck this game has ever seen in Angel Feather. that also happens to have access to Zerachiel to often undermine Zanbaku's right top skill. This made it so many competitive players who previously picked up Mura jumped ship and went to Angels and Neos, meaning OTT lost its biggest counter. With that being said, Morakumo is still a solid deck and could do well in Worlds. I definitely wouldn't count it out as one of the top decks. I just have doubt about it beating Meoh Nectar consistently enough to take a spot in this top 3. That is all for today. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please subscribe to the Solemn Vanguard channel and click the bell button to stay up to date. Like the video if you liked the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I will see you soon. Ciao.